Best Irish music on irishradio.org with Jerry Byrne.
Irish Radio, I'm Jerry Byrne. I've been speaking to many of the great and the good of talent. My next guest is a gentleman who has 9 Carnegie Hall sellouts. He's appeared at numerous concerts. He appeared at the David Geffen Hall in the Lincoln Centre with the New York Tenors. He's been christened as Irish America's favourite son. I'm delighted to say hello to the one and only Andy Cooney. Andy, how are you?
Jerry, it's great to talk to you, and thank you for having me.
A real pleasure. Andy, how did you get into the music in the first place?
Well, like a lot of the people over in the UK, my grandfather came from Ireland, settled in New York back in the 1920s, and, pretty much kept the traditions alive in his family, and it was passed on to us. And so if you're ever in America, sometimes you'll ask people what they are. They'll say, I'm Irish, I'm Italian, I'm German, but they're American. They'll they'll recognize themselves as what their heritage is. So over here, that's kind of the way we roll.
Right. Okay. Now you've had numerous successes, in your musical career. It's been truly incredible. I mean, you went to singing lessons and all the rest of it, and then made an incredible career out of it.
We have an incredible diaspora here of Irish Americans. Over 40 million people in America claim Irish ancestry. So it's a large market, Jerry, and a lot of people. So we travel to different cities throughout the United States, and I've had a blessed career. I started around 1984 as a piano player in New York, and then went on the road with a man named Paddy Noonan, who was very well known here in America from the County Cork. He had a show that toured all over the United States and Canada. So I went with him in 1986, and before you knew it, I was off and running.
Well done. I mean, you've released several songs. I mean, one particular song which you had an incredible amount of popularity with was your version of Slingshot Valley, which was absolutely hugely requested.
Wow. When I did that album, and usually when I do any album, of course, I try to write as much as I can. But one thing I do look for are those gems of songs that are old songs that just haven't been beat to death, if you know what I mean. And I just thought that was one of those songs, the Larry Cunningham classic Slingshot Valley. And I thought an updated version was kind of ready for that song,
Indeed, and it certainly worked. I mean, it became.
Really did. It was just kind of. I just had a feeling about it,
Yeah, yes, certainly it worked. I mean, it was sort of looked to as in the same fondness as the original by Larry all those years ago. So well done on that.
Well, I should say this, Jerry. My mom was of course she would have been first generation. But she was a big fan of of a lot of those artists like Larry Cunningham and Brendan Shine and a lot of the country artists at that time back in the 70s, And so when I was coming up and I was just a young guy at the time, she would have been playing a lot of that stuff, so I would have heard a lot of it when I was growing up.
Right. Now, you've recorded a whopping 19 albums so far.
I've been pretty busy in that respect. Living in a recording studio.
Right, yes. You recorded a brand new day with Phil Coulter and his orchestra as well.
Yeah, Phil is somebody I go way back with. I was recording for a company back in the early 90s called Rego Records, and they were the largest distributor of Irish music in America at the time. And I had started some tracks with Phil Coulter back in the early 90s. And we had collaborated at that time. And what happened was we were halfway through the album, and the record company decided they didn't want to fund the album anymore. So it stayed parked for about 20 years. And then kind of after I left the company and went on my own all those years later, I kind of gave Phil a call out of the blue, and I said, hey, do you want to finish that album that we started all those years ago? And Phil says to me, oh, Gandhi, what was that, 10 years ago? I said, no, Phil, try 20 years ago. So it was quite amazing. We actually ended up in the same recording studio. Phil played the same piano, it was the same sound desk, different engineer, but it was kind of like we never left the studio. And we went in and we completed the album. And Phil himself will tell you it's the first time it's taken him 20 years to complete an album. So,
Wow.
So that's how that experience happened. And we became the best of friends. We ended up doing tour dates throughout the U.S. together. He invited me to play the National Concert Hall with him, and I had him at my show at Carnegie Hall. So it created a fabulous relationship, and we're great friends to this very day.
Right, excellent, excellent. Now, you released since the pandemic struck and closed down all the venues and everything else around the world. You've recorded a number of singles, amongst them Take Me Back to Dublin. We're all in this together with your son Ryan, and also Come Tennessee With Me with the country legend Larry Gatlin.
Well, basically, we were all shut down, and the week started going by, and I said, God, I just have to do something. We're not playing any gigs, we're not doing anything. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try to stay relevant, and I'll do some writing, and we'll get some singles out, and see what happens. So that's exactly what I did. And I had written Take Me Back to Dublin, where I fell in love. It did fairly well. I was very happy. Got a lot of radio play. And then I had written that song with my son Ryan, and we recorded it together, and we did a beautiful video at the Brooklyn Bridge called "We're All in This Together." Got featured on New York One here, which is one of our main news stations here in New York City. So it was a great thing that we did. I was very happy that we engaged ourselves to do stuff like this, to stay relevant, stay out there. Then I recorded with Larry. I had played the Grand Ole Opry with Larry a year before that, and I was staying with him, and on the way back to his house, I just said to Larry, did anybody ever write anything like Come Tennessee Me Tonight? And it just kind of came to me, and Larry says, heck no, but we're going to write it tonight. So we wrote that song, and then during the pandemic, I flew to Nashville, and we recorded the video. And then we put it out as a single, and it did real well. And again, just trying to stay relevant, Jerry,
Indeed, well done. Now, your latest...
I actually recorded another single after that called The Waltz of the Angels. I had done one of these virtual concerts with a gentleman that's very famous here named Jimmy Sturr. He has his own TV show on every Friday night on the RFD network. And he said, look, I want you to sing this song with my orchestra. It's called The Waltz of the Angels. So I looked it up, and it was recorded by George Jones in 1960, and I loved it. So I went back into the studio with Jonathan Owens and Granard, and we produced another single after that. And now I have a brand new single out now. So, Jerry, it's just kind of like, what do you do when you're not working? Or you're working on your act. You're trying to stay relevant.
Indeed. Now, your latest single is going an absolute storm with me, which is Looking for Love in Listoon.
I got this demo, very, very simple demo, from these two guys in Galway, Johnny Broderick and Iggy Broderick. It was a very, very simple demo. And I listened to this thing, and I said, there is something special here in this song. So I sent it up to Jonathan Owens, who he produced a lot of my country and Irish stuff. He produces Nathan Carter and a lot of the big guys. And he says, I really like this. He says, I can do something with this. And he came back to me with what we put out, and I think it's phenomenal. So it has been getting a lot of radio play. I've been checking my radio monitor, which was a nice little technology they have that you can see who's playing you, what time they're playing you, what stations are playing you. And it's been averaging about 40 plays a week in Ireland on the different stations. I can't see the UK stations, but so I'm very happy with how it's doing.
Excellent, absolutely excellent. Now, the interesting thing is that you're actually back doing some performances in the US.
We are. Well, here in the US, we're a little ahead of you guys, and we have about 100 million people that have, that have received the vaccination, or they might be in their first shot, waiting for their second shot. We have, let's say there's 50 to 80 million people that are fully vaccinated here. So, and it's growing. I'm getting my second shot next week. So we could be up to, 150 million in a month's time. So things have opened up here, thanks be to God. And a lot of restrictions have been raised. People are all wearing masks where they feel, they feel like they want to. And, I played in the Catskill Mountains Friday night. We had a great crowd, and that came out. The hotel was full. People were respectful of other people, but a lot of our gang, would be about the 16 over gang, and most of them have been vaccinated. So it feels good to start getting back to normal, But my heart goes out to all of you people over there. It really does. I really hope that in the next month or so, you'll start seeing what we're starting to see. In the U.S.
Indeed, fingers crossed. I mean that things will pan out. I mean it's getting better. Granted, but hopefully that the things will work out. I don't think we're going to suddenly things are going to happen, but I think it will take a little bit of time yet. But I think we'll get there along the way.
I think it's gonna. What seemed to happen here in the States, it seemed to happen very quickly. Of course, when the vaccines was just starting to come out and being distributed, it took kind of forever for all of that to happen. And then once people started getting vaccinated, very quickly, I think, I would hope in a month or 6 weeks' time over there, you're gonna start feeling some of the stuff that we're feeling. That a lot of people are going to have vaccinations, and hopefully restrictions will start to be lifted. That's what we kind of experienced here. So, all the best. That's all I can say, Jerry. All the best to all of us.
Thank you, thank you, Andy. Hey, listen, you've got an incredible mailing list of over 48,000 people.
I know. You know what? I started. When I kind of left the Patty Noonan show back in 1994, I started a mailing list. And I just started collecting people, people that enjoyed my music. They would fill out a mailing list card at my gig, and I just kept on collecting people, and I stayed in touch with them. So I have a great, if you would, grassroots following, of people that look forward to receiving my newsletter. We've gone more into email now with the way things have gone, and postage is becoming a bit too expensive now these days. So now the email list is growing, and I'm doing less and less mailings. So we have a really nice thing. I've devoted fans that have been with me for a long, long time.
That is incredible. Now, another thing that you've started doing, and we are actually broadcasting it here on Irish Radio every Sunday morning in time in this part of the world at 10 o'clock, which is the Irish New York show with Andy Cooney. And that's something you've only pretty recently started.
Again, Jerry, trying to stay relevant, trying to stay out there and hope people don't forget about me. So, what was happening here in the U.S., we have, of course, a large Irish-American community, as you know. But a lot of the Irish radio programs over here, this one big record company kind of went under, Rego Records, and they kind of were feeding the market of Irish America. And 20 years ago, they went under. And ever since then, little by little, a lot of the stations, not being fed a steady diet of Irish music, they ended up just slowly folding. So we only have a handful of them over here, and still are not being fed. Even the new great Irish music that's coming out today. But being that I've kind of been in touch with the market because I've been releasing singles over there, and now I know everybody, I said, you know what? There are so many great, talented people that are not being played in the U.S., like Nathan Carter, like Derek Ryan, like Mike Denver, Patrick Feeney. The list goes on and on of some of these great, talented people. And, of course, some of the other more traditional artists, like Sean Keane and people like that. I said, they're not being played in the U.S. I said, I think this is a great opportunity for me to start presenting this music. What's happening in Ireland? What's the latest stuff coming out? Let's let the Irish American community know about these artists. So that's why I created the New York Irish Hour.
Indeed. It's seems like a great idea, and well done on it. And it's, I'll have to say, a very, very professionally presented for somebody who doesn't have a major amount of experience in radio.
Well, I have to tell you, Jerry, I really appreciate that compliment because, for me, I am a performer. I have no problem with being in front of a microphone. But this was something that I didn't know how it was going to go, and I said, you know what, I'm going to just go with what I know about these people, present their music, and put it out there, and I'm kind of happy it's clicking. We're getting it's growing and growing with every with every podcast. And what I'm liking about the podcast platform is that it's available to people at any time. And also stations like yours, your irishradio.org, are now picking it up for their listeners. So to me, this is going exactly as more than as planned. For irishradio.org to now add to air my show, the episodes that are coming out, so people that are not finding me or never heard of me before. So to me, this is a tremendous opportunity for me, and I want to thank you and irishradio.org.
A real pleasure, Andy. It really is, and well done on it, and well done on keeping it relevant, as you just say, keeping yourself relevant. But I mean, it is, it's getting music out there. It's keeping you in touch with people in other ways as well.
Oh, absolutely. And even being here on the on interview with you, Jerry. I mean. You just don't know. To me, it's important to be open to doing a lot of things. You just don't know what can come from it. Sure, it was a great effort to do these shows and the planning and scripting it and all the things that went into it. I'm up to about my 9th or 10th episode right now. But right now, I'm starting to see it pay off. So I'm delighted. I'm delighted where it's going. So we'll just kind of let it take a life of its own and see where it ends up. And now we're on irishradio.org on Sunday mornings, right, from 10 to 11?
That's right, indeed, every single week. So we'll be hearing lots more from you, Andy. Listen, it's a real pleasure to catch up with you, a real pleasure to chat with you, and we'll continue to play your music here as well.
Well, Jerry, I want to thank you, all your listeners, because, of course, I'm sure they listen all over the world, not only in the UK. And I really appreciate being part of the irishradio.org family. Thank you so much.